You know, for what feels like forever, we've pretty much taken the global internet for granted. This idea of a single digital world without borders. Well, that reality is starting to crack apart. We're going to explore how the web we all know is fracturing into something totally new. And it all starts with a simple and kind of frustrating image.
Just think about that for a second. That simple image, it really gets to the heart of this massive global shift we're seeing. All those seamless connections that we just expect to work, well, they're starting to break down. And this isn't some far-off hypothetical future. It's the reality we're heading towards.
And yeah, it's got a name. The Splinternet. A fragmented web where your online experience can change dramatically just by crossing a border. So how on earth did we get here? Well, it really boils down to three powerful forces, and the first one feels a lot like a clash of titans.
That's right, a new kind of Cold War is being waged right now, but this one isn't being fought with missiles and tanks, it's being fought with firewalls and legislation. This is the new battle for digital dominance between the world's superpowers, and it's fundamentally reshaping the internet as we know it.
And what we're looking at here are two totally different philosophies clashing in real time. On one side, you've got China's Great Firewall, which uses state-controlled censorship with the stated goal of maintaining social stability. On the other side, you have the US push to ban TikTok, using economic pressure to, as they say, protect national security. Look, these aren't just little squabbles over an app. They represent a deep, fundamental conflict over who gets to control the flow of information.
And that really forces us to ask a pretty tough question, doesn't it? Is our access to the world online now defined more by our physical location and maybe by our government's anxieties than by that original promise of an open, connected web? Now, this geopolitical struggle is just one piece of the puzzle. The next driver is all about money and power.
You've probably heard this phrase before, right? But honestly, it's never been more true than it is today. Data is now one of the most valuable resources on the entire planet, and nations are scrambling to control their own supply. And this has given rise to a really powerful concept that's basically building digital walls everywhere.
And that concept is called data sovereignty. Now, it sounds a little technical, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Your digital data is subject to the laws of the country where it's physically stored. That means a company can't just move information freely from, say, Germany to the United States. They have to navigate a mountain of different and often conflicting regulations.
So what's the result of all this? Well, countries are now treating data like a strategic national asset, almost like gold or oil. They're forcing companies to build huge data centers inside their borders, basically hoarding information to fuel their own economies, power their own AI, and, of course, maintain control. This leads us to the final and maybe the most drastic reason for the Splinternet.
So, beyond the politics and the economics, there's this growing fear among nations of being digitally vulnerable. I mean, just think about it. What if a foreign power could just flip a switch and turn off your country's internet? The response to that fear has been to build national networks that can be completely sealed off from the rest of the world. It's the ultimate defensive strategy, really, to create a kind of digital fortress, a sovereign internet that can run entirely on its own, totally immune to outside sanctions or cyber attacks. It's this quest for total digital independence.
And if you want a perfect real-world example of this, look no further than Russia's RUNET. This is a project that's designed to operate completely independently. The government has actually run tests where it disconnects from the global web, from the global domain name system, or DNS. What this does is effectively create a purely domestic internet, giving the state total control over its own digital space.
Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. We have a digital Cold War, a scramble for data, and this deep-seated fear of being unplugged. When you mix all that up, what does it actually mean for us? For the everyday users, the creators, the innovators? Well, the consequences are pretty profound.
And here's one of the biggest ones. That dream of creating one single app, one piece of software for the entire world, that dream is dying. For developers and tech companies, this is the start of something that's being called the death of the global launch.
So just for a second, put yourself in a developer's shoes. You've just created this amazing new app. Great. But now you have to completely re-engineer it to comply with US data laws. Then you have to rebuild it again for Europe's GDPR rules. Oh, and you want to enter the Chinese market? Guess what? You're rebuilding it a third time to fit into a state-controlled system. It's incredibly expensive, it's inefficient, and it just stifles innovation.
This quote just sums it all up perfectly. It nails the trade-off that we're all being forced to make. In this big quest for national security and data control, we're sacrificing the very thing that made the internet so powerful to begin with, its seamless, borderless nature.
Our digital freedom of movement is being choked off.
And that brings us to what might be the perfect metaphor for our new reality. You know, the open plains of the early internet, they're gone. Now, we live in a collection of beautiful but very separate walled gardens, and each one has its own rules, its own gatekeepers, and its own limitations.
So at the end of the day, it really all comes down to a personal question. What's that security worth to you? Is the convenience of having that global app worth the risk of your data ending up somewhere you don't want it, or would you rather just keep your data safe inside your nation's digital walls? You know, there's really no easy answer here, but it's a choice we're all being forced to think about.